Well, today's Supreme Court decision is just the latest setback for the administration. We've now seen weeks of negative stories on everything from the president's decision to release those top 5 Taliban leaders to the IRS telling congressional investigators it destroyed email evidence. First it was lost, then they destroyed the remnants of it. They wiped clean hard drives that were relevant in a critical litigation and generally created an appearance of guilt in the scandal over its own targeting of conservative groups. At a stop in Minneapolis today, President Obama suggested these are all just fabricated issues.
Sometimes the news that's being reported on is really important. I mean, what's happening in Iraq is relevant. But sometimes the news that's coming off is these are just Washington fights. They're fabricated issues, they're phony scandals that are generated. It's all geared towards the next election or ginning up a base. And that must feel frustrating. And it makes people cynical, and it makes people turned off from the idea that anything can get done. Just because it's not reported in the news, I don't want you to think that I'm not fighting for you.
Brent Bozell is president of the Media Research Center. So it's all phony scandals. Other than Iraq, that one's legitimate. Everything else is phony.
Megyn, this man has no shame. Look, this is right out of the Clinton playbook from the 1990s. Every time Bill Clinton got into trouble with a scandal and there was a whiff that there might be somewhere media coverage, he would go out and complain about the media. And it worked every time because they would go running for the tall grass rather than offend him. Look, here's the reality of Barack Obama. He is the most pampered president in the history of the United States in the eyes of the media. If it weren't for those reporters he's attacking right now, Barack Obama wouldn't be president. There's no question about that. But Megyn, we ran a couple of numbers for you tonight, and you're going to love this. This is a man who's complaining about the media coverage of these nonsense so-called scandals. Think about this. ABC, NBC, CBS. Between their morning and their evening shows, since June 1st, there has been 198 hours of news programming. There have been 17 minutes and 48 seconds of that devoted to the VA, 20 minutes of that devoted to the IRS. To put that in perspective, each one of those scandals has taken up exactly 0.2% of news time on the networks, and the man's complaining.
Well, that's the problem, is that it's taking up any time. And the thing is, you know, we had Benghazi, for example, which so many in the mainstream media refused to cover. And then the president seemed to be in his sweet spot because he could dismiss it as a Fox News story. But now you've got, you know, 0.2% or whatever. It's too much as far as the White House is concerned of the mainstream media talking about IRS, and they want to guilt them or shame them out of doing it.
It's exactly what's going on. What he's trying to do is intimidate the press. And we see what's happening right now is you've got liberal reporters like Ron Fournier of the AP, like Mark Halperin, like John King of CNN, who are coming forward, liberal reporters who are coming forward and saying to their industry, enough is enough. You've got to start covering these scandals. This is bigger than Richard Nixon, and they're nowhere to be found. And that's what Barack Obama is seeing, and that's why he's going after the press.
But now,
he sees the cracks.
And now on the IRS scandal, which is starting to reach a critical mass again, it sort of died down. Now it's coming back up in the wake of this, the loss of these emails, and 70+% of the American people don't believe that these were just lost, and there's nothing nefarious connected with that excuse. Now you're starting to hear some of the mainstream media, Brent, try to excuse the whole scandal away, saying, let's not lose sight of what the IRS scandal is really about, which is those evil conservative groups that were trying to get tax-exempt status in the first place, trying to sort of convince us that what the IRS did, well, maybe in sort of questionable tactics, but overall they were in the right.
Sure. Chuck Todd of NBC, the political director for NBC, is saying on national television there are no victims. There are no victims of this IRS scandal.
Show us a victim from the IRS.
My goodness, there are victims all over America.
If only you will open your eyes and see them. Brent, good to see you.
Thank you, Megyn.